Where will you find your negativity this week? That was a message that landed in the inbox of the We Are West Ham podcast after the Manchester United game from long-time listener Mark Scott. Well, Mark, unfortunately, I wasn't around last week. I had to call in sick for the We Are West Ham podcast, which isn't something I do regularly. But just so you know, I also called in sick for my actual job as well, which is also something I rarely do. But I am just about sort of back to struggling my way back to full fitness, Mark. But I thought, even though I'm not quite back to my fighting best yet, I could just about drum up enough energy to come and do the We Are West Ham podcast this week, just to inject a usual bit of negativity. I'm assuming by the tone of your message that you thought, as so many people did, that the victory over Manchester United was proof that all is well at West Ham United, and Julen Lopetegui is the answer to all of our prayers, and people like me who think it's rubbish and would prefer it to still be last season or the season before that are idiots. Well, I think West Ham United 0, Nottingham Forest 3 at the City Ground may tell you otherwise, although judging by lots of the West Ham fans I've spoken to this season, I very much doubt it. James Jones, how are you? I don't really feel I should talk, to be fair. I think you just should have to do all the talking. I don't think I should have to. Because if it was down to me, we wouldn't be in this mess. And I don't think it's fair that I didn't want any of this, and I still got to come on and talk to you about it every week. It's crap. What is the point?
Well, firstly, I'm glad you're feeling a little bit better, mate. Although it was incredibly suspicious that you decided to call in sick after we win. And then went earlier on today when I messaged you and said, "Are we podding today?" And you came back with the yes exclamation mark, as if you could not wait to do that. And I was like,
I wish that was true.
I knew that would happen, but I'm all right. I know that everyone has. I've had a little bit of stick so far this season, not least from you.
Good.
For my positivity and my overall
tolerance, accuracy.
My overall tolerance to the situation at hand, in that, it takes time, blah blah. Not going to go into a great amount of detail on that again. But I will say, and you might be pleased about this, you might be relieved, I don't know, but I will say I am very, very quickly running out of excuses for that man. And I'll go into the why when the time is right on the show. I can start now if you want.
I'll tell you what, mate. The time is right tonight, because I'm only going to talk. I'm refusing. I got on strike because I didn't want any of this, and I had to be the one. I was more than willing to take the stick, right? And don't say we didn't want it either. Yes, you did. You wanted a change, and there was always a chance this could happen. I'm only going to talk about two things tonight. One is Edson Alvarez. I've got plenty to say about that, and two is something funny. Is a Paddy Power advert I've just seen on Twitter. That's all I'm going to talk. That's not an endorsement of Paddy Power, by the way. It's just an advert I've seen on Twitter that involves West Ham. That's all I'm willing to talk about. Anything beyond that is beyond my pay grade. I'm going to strike. I didn't want any of this.
It could be an endorsement, Paddy. If you're watching, you're listening.
Yeah. By all means.
Okay, where do I start? Well,
Mr. Power.
After the Man United game, and Alex and I touched on it briefly in our little reaction piece. In the first half was terrible, but the second half, it felt like he'd stumbled across his best 11, whether it was accidental or not. We were a lot better in the second half. Yes, we were very fortunate, thanks to probably one of the worst VAR decisions in history. But it's about time. But it felt like, and Alex and I discussed it, that has to be the second half 11 has to be starting 11 against Forest. because
The
there
bloke
was
has got a clue, has he?
there was
Doesn't know how to
balance
set a
in
team up.
midfield. It felt like the players knew where they needed to be. There was urgency going forward. Defensively, we were good. Man United couldn't deal with us on a number of occasions, and it just felt like actually maybe he's done it. Maybe we found it. This is it. Don't change anything else now, Julian. This is your 11. Obviously, he had to make a one change because Thomas Souček called in sick.
Yeah. Well, he probably had the same thing, the 5-day flu or whatever it was I had, probably.
Yeah, and
Which
it's
is
like, okay,
lasting
well,
about a week.
all right, it doesn't matter. Okay, just find a way of just
Identity's a
replacing
legend.
his role. Find someone to replace his role for the day, but everything else can just stay the same. Just keep
There
it
isn't
the
one
same.
though, is there? This is
Keep
what
it
I
the
was saying.
same.
He's so important.
Keep it the same. And what does he do? He goes 5 at the back and still plays Paqueta. Gives Somerville his start, which he deserved after his performance
definitely.
against United. Then hauls him off at half time.
Mental.
Right,
The weirdest
didn't watch it.
substitution ever.
I didn't watch it. I was at my uncle's surprise 60th birthday. So I couldn't. I was just me and my brother were there and kind of just watching the updates come through every sort of what it felt like every minute. It'd be like 1-0, 2-0, 3-0.
Well, I actually
Alvarez
watched
sent
it.
off.
Yeah.
But then I looked at it and I thought I'll just go on there. And I was like, he's hauled Somerville off. He couldn't have been that bad to bring him off at half time. And I know he loves a half time substitution, but that is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, he doesn't love one. It's because he can't set a team up, and we're always getting absolutely dicked by the 45-minute stage, and he has to because his team is an absolute shambles.
But the last time he played the back five, we got battered by Chelsea at home 3-0 in what is the most, well, I don't know whether Forest beats it, but one of the most shambolic performances of the season so far. And obviously he played well, but on reflection, terrible.
What's that? Sorry, mate. Sorry.
The Chelsea game, he played the back five in that game, right? He played the back five in that game, and we lost that game.
The infamous not a bad performance.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad performance. I'm looking back now going, oh, blimey. I know I've said up to this point, like, we need to give it time. We need to be a bit more patient. It's too early to suggest it will never work. We have to give it more time. There's been a load of change. We have to take that into account, etc., etc. But I'm still at the stage where I'm like, maybe it is too early. Because maybe it's too early to say that it definitely won't work. But the Forest result is, for me, some evidence that suggests that it probably won't. And that is because he did the complete opposite of what everyone else thought was the right thing to do. And he's the one being paid to make those decisions.
He's doing it every week, mate.
It was so clear. It was so clear and obvious that the second half against Man United, that was the 11 to go with because it worked. It worked.
But to be fair, Souček is so important. Like, get Guido Rodriguez out of that team. It's embarrassing, mate.
He didn't even change the 11. He changed the entire formation. And if there was ever evidence that formation and these sort of players doesn't work, it was the Chelsea game about 2 months ago. And he just did it again, and it's the same scoreline. And so there's that other thing. And I know you want to touch on it, but we'll say there is an issue with. There has to be an issue with the players. That's 3 red cards this season. Kudus uncharacteristically gets sent off for just losing his head.
Yeah, because they hate playing for him by the looks of it.
But then Alvarez, 2 red cards for 4 stupid tackles for yellow cards in 2 different games. Just reckless. It makes you wonder. Are they doing it out of frustration? Are they doing it because they're being forced out of position and they're almost forced to make these tackles? I don't know, but it's not good enough to have 3 players sent off in your first 12 games. I don't really know, mate, but I'm running out of excuses for him. And
why are you making him? Like, you don't just.
Well, I'm not saying I'm making
it's a shambles.
I'm not saying making him. I was up to this point a little bit more tolerant of the amount of change in the situation that the club was in, and that I
totally get you, but you've got to see signs. You've got to see some signs.
But yeah, and I was seeing the signs, but at the same
Mate,
time,
there's
was a little
been
bit more
nothing.
tolerant of them. But now, after that Forest game, I mean, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I cannot see. I don't, mate, I'm lost for words with it because had he played that same 11 from the second half against United, and we'd lost 3-0, then it'd have been like. I think I didn't see the game, so I don't really know what the performance is like. But the result tells everything I need to know. I just don't know, mate. It just doesn't make any sense to me how he's made so many changes and not seen what was just so obvious and just gone with it. He keeps calling for consistency, but he's not being consistent
In
himself.
what? With what? Exactly, mate.
He
Yeah,
wants
with
consistent
what?
performances. He wants consistent. That's what he said a couple of times. Like, I want consistency in the performances, but you're not going to get that when you keep changing the formation. You keep changing the starting
Exactly.
11.
Yeah.
It's
If you actually had a clue what you were doing or how to set up a team properly to win a game, and I'm sorry, but I just don't have any respect for him playing Rodriguez every week. That is just someone who's putting their own stubbornness and pride and ego above the needs of the team. I'm just not having it. Like, no one can tell me that starting that bloke is good for West Ham. They can't. It's ridiculous. He should have been sent off for that tackle on Gibbs White. They didn't really show it on any of the highlights. You might not have seen it. But he studied Gibbs White in the ankle, like a bad one. No idea why he wasn't sent off as well. It would have done us. He is awful, like really awful. Like he's one of those hark back players, isn't he? Like the Harvard Nordvites. Like he will go down as one of those players. And he's terrible, but rather than just swallow your pride and but that's all we're getting from him. It's just stubbornness. And honestly, the way I'm saying, you got Vladimir Sufal sitting on the bench there, right? And I know he's got his drawbacks, but like I was saying about Souček, and I was sorry, but I was proved right about that. I know people go, "Oh, you're being smug again." I don't really care because I was right about Souček. He comes out of the team, we look an absolute shower. Like the attributes Thomas Souček and Vladimir Sufal bring to a football team are equally important. People might think they're too glamorous for it, and we're too fashionable for that, or they want to see a bit more passing football, whatever. But I'm sorry, but like Manchester City don't win leagues without players with heart and grit and determination. They do all the ugly stuff as well. If anything, it's just as important. Like it is cutting your nose off to spite your face. It is ego. It is just absolutely ridiculous, persisting with this wild Aaron Wan-Bissaka thing. Anyone I speak to, right, West Ham or otherwise, who's got their two eyes in their head and has watched any football recently, goes, why, like, is he playing Aaron Wan-Bissaka as if he's like the greatest attacking right back in the world, rather than acknowledging that as anyone you say about Wan-Bissaka, they'll go, yeah, not the best going forward, but solid defender. And honestly, the amount this happens so often in football, where managers give that sort of impression sometimes that in every situation they know better than fans, right? And a lot of the time, I'm inclined to think, well, yeah, fair enough. Like, you're paid millions of pounds to manage a Premier League football team. That's because you've had results and you know what you're doing. There are times where anyone who knows football knows that something's not working. Like, it doesn't take a genius to go, Guido Rodriguez is rubbish. It's not working. Stop playing him. Or it doesn't take a genius to go, it's not really helping, leaving Aaron Wan-Bissaka miles up the pitch. It's honestly, mate, when Callum Hudson-Odoi is barreling down the left-hand side, it's not even a little bit surprising. Like, it happens and you go, yeah, that happened. It's obvious. It's obvious because we are so weak down that side because of the mental thing, whatever it is you're trying to do with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Honestly, I really can't believe we are here. I really can't believe we are here. And this is exactly the sort of thing. I know it was a bit of a joke last season, but this is exactly what I meant. those years that we've just had were so precious, and we are a million miles off of that. And anyone who thinks we're going to get back there with Lopetegui, the only thing, James, that is keeping me a little bit from going properly both barrels and just going, that's it, we're like, get rid, is what you said about Antonio Raiola. That's really stuck with me, that. And then I see him again at the weekend, and I just beat Man City
in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Like absolutely dominated Chelsea as well. We're so unlucky not to beat them. And I'm like, and there's a little bit, and even as I'm saying this now, I never get this animated about stuff really. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be one of those things where, like, the day Lopetegui lifts the Europa League for us, like, this is going to get played out again. It's going to be embarrassing. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And if it does, it'll be after we get relegated this season first. It'll be one of the most remarkable comebacks ever, because it's just chill. Just play your players who have been good servants and stop trying to implement everything and doing it for your ego. Like Carlos Soler, perfectly fine, but I don't know what he does. Like, Lopetegui clearly doesn't know what he's trying to do. The players haven't got a clue. They look, you can tell, mate, as well. They look so disinterested. And not even disinterested, frustrated is exactly the right word. I was proper winning on Alvarez, was fuming with him because they are 2 brainless yellow cards, right? Properly brainless. But you only have to think back. I think it's a Chelsea game where, again, Wan-Bissaka, nowhere to be seen, anywhere but right back. That's basically his position. And it's Alvarez, who's not particularly mobile or quick, sprinting his head off to try and get back and cover. And he's the one who's sort of on the highlights package then. Kudus, like, losing the plot when he gets hauled off at Brentford. Like, and you can just feel it, even in the interviews afterwards. You can just feel it. He's got that aura of like, how can anyone possibly question me? I'm the great Julen Lopetegui. I've been at Real Madrid, I've been at Seville, and I've been at Wolves. I walked out on Wolves because the owners misled me about spending, blah blah blah. And you kind of think, when you hear that, you go, fair enough. Seriously, it is rubbish. It is rubbish. It's so predictable. And anyone after Man United, I was sort of glad I was ill, really, and I would have said the same thing on the podcast, was that it's the same as the game against Crystal Palace. We were terrible in the first half there. We're lucky not to be completely out of sight by half time. Like, we haven't put a good 90 minutes of football together all season. We haven't played one good entire game, and that is not sustainable. It's rubbish. Any team worth their salt, as you see at Nottingham Forest, will finish you. And it was only Man United's terrible finishing in a game that literally got their manager sacked, so it shows you where they're at. Only that, like, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's absolutely pants, and there's nowhere to turn, and we didn't have to be in this position, and it's infuriating.
I'd like to just touch on your original, right at the beginning. You said that you just said it kind of briefly there as well, in that, we didn't have to be here. I disagree on that point. I disagree in that I think a change needed to be made at that point. I think the key
of the fans.
No, I genuinely believe that we'd gone as far as David Moyes could have taken us. I think it was evident in the way the second half of last season played out. We'd followed up our best ever first half of a season in Premier League history with 3 wins after Christmas, and squandered the opportunity to finish in the top 6 and then end up finishing 9th. We'll look back in years to come and go at that season and go, "Oh, we finished 9th. That must have been a decent season." But it really was a season of 2 halves. And if you actually look at the form that we were in towards the end of that, getting battered by,
I understand that. I know that. Yeah.
And it was very clear, really thin squad. I know we got to the quarterfinals of the Europa League.
Well, we could have gone again. That's what I'm saying. It's feasible.
Maybe
it's not beyond the realms of possibility to back him again, rather than this Burke.
The thing is, though, this is what it boils down to. I don't agree with the fact that we didn't need to make a change, but I think what's becoming very, very obvious is that it's the wrong guy. it was a change that I think needed to be made, but it all kind of hung on who came in to replace him.
If you're going to get rid of the best manager of the modern era, have someone decent lined up.
Well, I mean,
do you know what I mean?
How's this made me laugh. It's maybe, well, I mean, that's it, but it's made me laugh over the last week. Obviously, Ruben Amorim's taken the Man United job, and obviously, he famously flew over and had a chat with David Sullivan, was instantly scared off. Don't blame him. But, you know, the noise is coming out of the club going, oh, you know, we turned him down because he's not that experienced.
Well, it's the money. They didn't want to pay the money. Yeah, I don't think he was that impressed either, yeah.
I mean, I question whether it was a fact of us turning him down or the other way around, if I'm honest. But it's made me think, you know, we showed an element of ambition by getting that geezer in the same room and going, you know, this is, you know, come and join our project. Look, this is what we've done over the last 3 years under Moyes. We want to make a change. We want to push forward. Yeah. Okay, probably not big enough to attract a manager with, you know, his qualities. It showed an element of ambition. When Lopetegui was chosen instead, although I was like, okay, that's not the worst appointment, but it is a million miles away from where we were when we were having discussions with Amorim. It made me think there was zero plan in that managerial search. There could not, because you're two ends of the spectrum, regardless of, forget the start Lopetegui's had. You go from Ruben Amorim, who is, you know, the next best young manager to come out of Europe. Supposedly, and you know, he won Sporting's first league title in, was it 18 years or something like that, and he's now got the Man United job, biggest club in the world, regardless of their last 10 years, still the biggest club in the world. And then you've got Lopetegui, who did really, really well for Sevilla, but since then has struggled at Real Madrid. Did a half decent job at Wolves, but he's also in his 50s and doesn't have a progressive style of play.
That's what I'm saying.
It's two ends of the spectrum. It's, you know, bright young progressive manager that plays really lovely football, or manager that, you know, has had a good career but doesn't play that much of a different style of football to David Moyes, and has a couple of black marks against his name. There's no similarities between the two guys that they supposedly were talking to.
No, it's like when we signed Haller to replace Antonio.
Yeah, it's like, what's the strategy?
Yeah, not the same. Yeah. That's what I mean. Look at Brighton. Like Fabian Hertzler, he's a plug into the system, isn't he? If Thomas Frank ever leaves Brentford, they'll have 3 other Thomas Frank-shaped jigsaw puzzles, probably a bit younger. Yeah. No way will have as good a hair.
No one had heard.
And just plug in
Hertzler. No one had heard of Hertzler. I'd never heard of him. And
no,
he's rocked up there and he's doing a half decent job straight away. Bang, done.
Yeah, of course, because he fits the system the way the club's set up, because the club is set up and structured properly.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I believe it was the right time to make a change, and maybe it's going to be a case of this one hasn't worked, but we go again and we get someone else. Who that person is, I mean, I'll be very surprised if Lopetegui makes it till Christmas at this rate. And I'm looking out there going, there's no one out there. There's no one that I can see that is going to want to take this job and is going to be good enough to take this job. And for me, it's concerning that.
I just think you should have an identity as a club. Like Forest and Brentford have sort of got an identity, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? Like, sorry, Forest. Brighton and Brentford have got an identity.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well,
I just
West Ham's identity is chaos. It's just,
and then one bloke comes along who brings a bit of order to the chaos, and then he gets shafted out the door. Right. Mulligan's Irons, James, message and said, so we play 3 at the back, don't have a target in the box as Bowen's drifting right, then get our CDMs, central defensive midfielders, booked for late tackles coming back as cover for the wing backs who got caught out. Well, glass half full. I can see in the last 2 games what Lopetegui's trying to do. Oh, good one, mate. Unfortunately, his 3 centre backs is more like Nuno at Spurs than Conte at Chelsea. Mulligan's Eye is trying to look on the bright side there. What else we got? I've done there. Mark's got one already. Yeah, this was Michael Wood got in touch and said after the Man United game, season back on ? And this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, no, like it's just not okay to play so badly. Like it's just not okay to play so badly for 45 minutes in each game. It's just not, and you're not going to win many games like that. Honestly. Right, James, what else you got? You're going to have to say something. Nah, it's rubbish. It's not going to change either. It's not going to change. I don't know how. I don't know where we go from here. It's just like I say, the Man United win was like fortunate. Like we're 14th, 3 wins. I don't know. But that's going to be it for the season, isn't it? Really, like we're not going to we're going to finish around where we are. We're not going to be worse than. I think Wolves will come good. I actually still think they'll be okay. I think Southampton and Ipswich will go. Ipswich were poor when we played them. Palace, I imagine, will be okay. But it's going to be that. Like it is going to be around that, isn't it? We're not going to go down, but I can't see us all of a sudden being better than Fulham. And we've played a game more than them. But we're 14th, Man United 13th. They'll obviously disappear up the table. We're not going to get better than Fulham. We might. I was saying 12th as if it was disparaging. We'd be well lucky to get 12th now.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
honestly, it's bad.
I don't really know what else to say, mate. I think.
Talk about Alvarez.
Well, I think that comment summed it up. You know, he's almost stupidly had to take one for the team because he's at the track back and cover. But at the same time, they just made some really rash decision making, and it comes out of frustration. I'm sure of it. He just shouldn't be in those positions in the first place, regardless of whether he needs to make the tackle or not. But yeah, it's twice now this season that we've lost him. I don't really know, and like he is Souček aside. I mean, he's our best. If it's a toss up between Alvarez and Rodriguez, it's like it's no competition. But because of that, Rodriguez is going to be in the starting 11 against Everton on Saturday. You know that.
Yeah. Imagine if we lose.
Well, if we lose against Everton, I think he gets sacked. He goes.
He's got to. He's got to. But then we go away to Newcastle. Away to Newcastle, home to Arsenal, away to Leicester, home to Wolves. Yeah, I mean, the season is totally over.
If you don't beat Everton, I mean, you've almost got to write Newcastle and Arsenal off. Then the Wolves and Leicester games are 2 games you go, well, you've got to win those, given the situation that we're in and where we are in the table.
To do what, isn't it?
So if you don't beat Everton, by the time you get around to those Leicester and Wolves games, you're in serious bother. So you've got to beat Everton. If he doesn't, he's got to go.
He's got to go. Yeah. If we don't beat Everton. Well,
it's funny because
I don't know what you do though, mate. I don't know what you do. I really think. Well, I think we've sort of made
Alex
our own bed.
Alex and I were saying that the way the table is still quite tight, and we said we were like, and anyone who listened, will back me up here. I wasn't saying yes, we're going to go to Nottingham Forest and win and get a result. But funny enough, I said, I wouldn't be surprised if we did go there and get a result.
Yeah, but that's sitting on the fence, right? Isn't it? Classic James Jones with splinters in his bottom.
I did say, I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw because I'll take the point now. But in my head, kind of felt like we'd already lost the game. But I said, if we beat Forest and then you go and beat Everton, suddenly you're 7th in the league and suddenly we're back in the conversation because the table's so tight. But we've only got 2 or 3 more weeks of the table being tight before you need to win 8 games to get anywhere close to it. So we're running out of time.
5 games to get out of relegation zone.
Yeah, so we're running out of time. So I said like, we have to win. We have to win against Everton, and we have to win by playing well as well. It can't be the same thing that happened against Man United because for me that paper's over the cracks. It has to be.
But honestly, mate? I just think it sounds silly saying, not what's the point, but like I don't really. If we beat Everton, I'm not like it's on. Like he's the future.
Well, no,
it's just so rubbish. It's just going to be It's going to be limping to the end of this. I don't even know if it'd be the end of the season, but I don't know. It'd be limping to Christmas probably. As long as that's what's so demoralising. As long as we're 14th, it'll just be like we'll get as far as we can as long as we're not going down. But that's no future. That's not the point of it all. That's not the point of the stadium move. That's not the point of getting rid of David Moyes. The whole point of these things that were rubbish was to move on and upwards and forwards.
Well, if we finish 14th this year, that doesn't mean we're going to finish 14th every single year. This isn't not our destiny. Like
it is flipping under Lopetegui though.
But we're not going to stick with Lopetegui. Like, that much has been very obvious over the last at least 2 weeks. It's just not. I don't.
So you're saying you don't? You reckon it's done now? Then
I don't. At this current point in time, I do not see a way forward with Lopetegui in charge.
Yeah, he's not a long-term solution, is he? Definitely not. It does feel really like. I know it feels silly and premature, but it's not because the results have been bad, right? It's because we've been absolutely nowhere near it, and I can't see anything that's making me go, when that happens, when this clicks, when that works, that'll be fine. It's pants.
Well, this is the thing.
Naive and pants and egotistical.
The second half against Man United made me think, there we go. That resembles a group of players that know what they're doing and can play.
But you can't just pick 45 minutes, can you? Like you got to pick the full 90s we've put in every week.
But this is it. It's like, well, because he completely changed the formation. He brought 3 players on that completely changed the game, and we just looked a lot better. It's like, right, bang, you've done it. Well done, Julen. Crack on now. There's your squad. There's your tactics. There's play, and he just rips it up again and undoes all of that hard work. And that's why I'm like, I don't see it now. I don't see it. I really felt like if the manager can't see that and I can, then there's definitely problems, because I've said before, I can't talk tactics. I'm rubbish at tactics. Like,
but you don't need to be a tactical genius.
I'm a plug and play merchant. I'm football manager. Like, I'll find someone else's tactics. But you
just don't need to be a genius, though, do you? Like, you don't need to be a genius to know that the Wan-Bissaka thing's mental, or that Guido Rodriguez is rubbish. You don't need to be a tactical guru to be able to tell that.
Yeah.
Just quickly, the Paddy Power advert I was talking about says Edu at Arsenal, 550 million spent, 0 European trophies. Mark Noble as sporting director at West Ham, 1 crate of beer and sandwiches for the lads, and 1 European trophy. Time for Arsenal to get a proper sporting director. And then the picture of Mark Noble with a crate of Heinekens in front of the sandwich trays in the change rooms at Prague after the I think it was after the final.
That was the semi-final.
No, Alkmaar, wasn't it? Yeah. So have you got anything else to say, James? I know it's a bit shorter than usual, but I don't know. Alvarez brainless, but then I also get the impression that It's sort of part of the whole thing. None of them look like they're buzzing to play for him. Bowen, I feel so sorry for Bowen. I feel so sorry for him. Having to captain this absolute shower. Best player last season, whatever system we've got on at the moment, load of rubbish. Kufal, great servant to the club, sat on the bench, not offering anything. Meanwhile, the bloke who's replaced him is just, the worst thing for the right back union in history.
I want to talk about. Just want to touch on Aaron Wan-Bissaka, because not for 1 minute do I believe that he's a bad player. He's just being used incorrectly. It would be the exact same thing if Soufal was playing. Soufal would be asked to do exactly what Wan-Bissaka's being asked to do.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, just stop asking him to do that.
Yeah, well, this is it though. So for me, if you stop asking the right back to do that, and you ask the right back to do right back things, then
like defend and stop goals going against
for me,
you.
it's still Wan-Bissaka over Soufal. I think he's a better player than Soufal. I love Soufal, being a great servant, but I still prefer. I think Wan-Bissaka is a better player, a better right back than Soufal. I understand why he was brought in, and not at any point am I going to turn around and go, Wan-Bissaka's a terrible player, he's a terrible signing. I just think he's being asked to do things that he is not good enough to be doing. So I just wanted to make that one clear because I love Soufal, but I do believe that Wan-Bissaka is a better right back.
Fair enough. I don't know if I've got the energy to ask this question. Just quickly, heat on Tim Steidten, because it's a big fat yes from me. And I said that last season. Pressure's on you now, mate, because these are your picks, your calls, your players, blah blah blah.
Was it Steidten choice, or is it Sullivan appointment? Do we know?
No, that's mental. Yeah, anyone saying that, like, Sullivan, you can't just pick and choose. If stuff that you don't like isn't working out, you say it's Sullivan. Like, Sullivan appointed a sporting director to take some of the load off of him, right? He has final say, but anyone who thinks he shouldn't have final say, if I had 800 million quid of my own money or an 800 million pound asset, I think I'd have the final say on stuff as well if I had tens of millions of pounds of my own money tied up in it. So he obviously still has. Everyone goes, he still has final say on transfers. Yeah, like every other owner at every other football club in the land. And he brought Steidten in to take a bit of the pressure off himself, and with a sort of probably a bit of a begrudging acceptance that, okay, maybe there is someone out there who knows better about this stuff than I do. And that wouldn't have come easy to Sullivan. But he did do that. And the he spent loads of money. He wants to be in all the pictures on the private jet, Steidten, doesn't he? And down by the pitch side and in the tunnel before the game, which is all mental and weird anyway. Honestly, get rid. Honestly, sell the club. Mate, what's the point?
Sell the club, yes, please.
Wind us up. Let's go back to Upton Park. I'm going to start.
I don't think.
What's any other sports that we could watch, James? What else? I'm going to play golf. Just as frustrating, but at least you're in control of it. I'm going to do that on the Saturdays. Why not? That's better. Yeah. Wind up the club, wind up the football club, and then
just so you can play golf. Just so Will Pugh can go and play golf. Just wind it up.
Well, just to give all of us a break, wouldn't it? Because there's no fun in this. There's really no fun in this.
In response to your original question, maybe I wouldn't kick off at Tim Steidten just yet.
But he's got to take some responsibility, isn't he?
Of course, yeah. But people make mistakes, right? I mean,
leave it out. Leave it out.
You bring in the wrong manager. Doesn't mean to say right. Let's get rid of Tim Steidten. Like, he's just brought in the wrong manager, but he's also brought in some very, very good footballers over the last 2 years.
Take me back to the old days. It was just David Sullivan in charge.
Some of which have been very, very good signings. So I wouldn't put all of the blame on him. Not every managerial appointment ever is going to work. This one isn't going to work. It hasn't worked. It is what it is for me. I'm like, okay, this hasn't worked. Let's move on as quickly as possible. He'll get at least one more game. But yeah, as you can see, my mind has been changed very, very quickly.
Yeah,
it's literally been born out of the fact that I've witnessed before my very eyes that as well. But I witnessed before my very eyes, and so did 65,000 other fans, a West Ham team play well for 45 minutes against Man United after they played terribly for 45 minutes before against Man United, and went, there you go, that's your team. And he didn't see it. And
it's
in my head, I'm just
old
like,
Tommy
no,
Souček effect, isn't it?
Doesn't make any sense. Why didn't he not stick with that team? And he just went back to a formation that got battered by Chelsea 2 months earlier, and he got battered again this time by Nottingham Forest. And yeah, you're right. I do not like Nottingham Forest whatsoever.
Right, 41 minutes is more than I thought I could manage, James, to be honest. So have you got anything else to say? Because I've had enough.
I feel like I don't know. This is a weird one. I feel like I don't know. I feel unhappy.
Yeah,
about the whole thing. But I don't.
Same.
I don't feel. But at the same time, I'm not like, oh, this is the worst thing in the world. Season's over. This is like you alluded to the fact earlier that this is us forever. We're going to finish 14th forever. It's like, no, we're not Crystal Palace. We're not Crystal Palace.
Yeah, they are the perennial 14th finishers, aren't they?
I'm convinced that it will get better. Not under Lopetegui, I don't think, but I'm convinced it will get better, and we will have happier days ahead of us. But when those days will come, I don't know. But it's not like we've never been here before either, is it, mate? It was only 4 short years ago we were having very similar conversations about Pellegrini.
Yeah, and then it all got better, and I really loved it. It was the best time of my life when we were good.
Was great, wasn't it? Yeah.
I really liked it. Right, that's enough for me. I normally tell you to follow us on socials and stuff. Like, can if you want. If not, don't worry, because I wouldn't want any more West Ham content on my social media feeds at the moment either. Yeah, I'm get in touch. Do get in touch, because at least next week, when we lose to Everton, I don't have to say anything off my own back. I can just read out all your messages. Instagram, we are West Ham Pod. We are _ West Ham on Twitter. We are West Ham Pod at gmail.com on the emails if you want. Buy us a pint at buymeacoffee.com/we are West Ham. We could do a pint this week, to be fair. If you haven't chipped in before, buymeacoffee.com/we are West Ham. Not that I don't really think. I was going to say I don't think tonight's effort really sort of deserves one, Jonesy, but I think just turning up and doing it and talking about it is effort enough, don't you?
It's almost like therapy.
Well, you know what, mate? Normally I feel better. Actually, 43 minutes later, I don't. I feel just as bad. If anything, I feel worse because I'm still a little bit ill, and I kind of like banished the West Ham stuff from my mind. Now it's just reminded me.
I'm sorry, mate.
Anyway, Lopetegui out. Thanks for listening, everyone. Don't know. West Ham are massive. Up the Hammers. Yeah. Anyway, we'll have an Everton opposition view later this week. See you later.